It's quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that creeps in after years of noise, chaos, and laughter have left their imprint on the walls. Kathy's out shopping. She says it's just for groceries, but knowing her, she'll come back with something for the house, or maybe even something small for me. She's always thoughtful like that. We've been married for 24 years, and in just a month, we'll hit the big 25. A quarter of a century. That thought hits me harder than I expected. It feels like just yesterday I was fumbling with a ring in my pocket, trying to figure out how to propose without making a complete fool of myself. And here we are now. 2 kids grown and gone. The house suddenly feeling so much bigger than it used to. Both kids, Jack and Emily, are off at college. Jack's finishing up his senior year. Emily just started her sophomore. It's strange not having them around. The house used to hum with activity. Jack blasting music from his room. Em arguing with Kathy about curfews. The constant buzz of their friends coming and going. Now it's just me and Kathy most days. And when she's out like this, it's just me. I decided it was time to get out of bed. Kathy would probably laugh if she saw me now, lounging around like some retiree when it's barely mid-morning. I reached for the bottle of vitamins on my nightstand, popped the cap, and tipped one out into my hand. Except it didn't land in my palm. The small round pill bounced off the edge of the table, hit the floor, and of course, rolled straight under the bed. Sighing, I muttered a few choice words under my breath and got down on my knees to retrieve it. It was darker under there than I expected, with a faint smell of dust I hadn't noticed before. I felt around blindly, brushing my fingers against stray bits of lint and an old sock that must have been Jack's before he left for college. Then my fingers closed around something else. Thin, crinkly, and very out of place. I pulled it out and stared at it for a moment, my stomach sinking as I realized what it was. A condom wrapper. For a moment, my mind blanked. I just sat there on the floor, holding the thing in my hand like it was some alien artifact. My first thought was confusion. Who the hell? No one's been here, no guests, no parties, nothing. It's just been me and Kathy in this house for the last 3 months. And then another thought hit me, one that made my chest tighten. I had a vasectomy after Emily was born. We decided 2 kids were enough, and I went through with it, no questions asked. So why would there be a condom wrapper under our bed? That's when it crept in. The thought I didn't want to entertain, but couldn't push away. Kathy is cheating on me. Anger bubbled up inside me, hot and sharp, but I clamped it down. What was I going to do? Storm up to Kathy the moment she got home, waving a condom wrapper like it was a smoking gun? That wouldn't get me anywhere. She'd deny it, or worse, turn it around on me. No, I needed more than this flimsy piece of plastic to confront her. I got up, threw on a pair of jeans and a shirt, and grabbed my keys. The house felt suffocating now. Every corner suddenly suspect. I needed to clear my head, and I knew exactly who to talk to. Davy Jones. No, not the pirate from the movies. The real Davy Jones, my old friend and a damn good private investigator. He got the nickname back when he was in the Navy, and it stuck even after he swapped the sea for the streets. If anyone could help me figure out the truth, it was him. When I walked into his office, Davy was leaning back in his chair, feet up on his desk, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. He looked up, grinned, and stood to greet me with a firm handshake. "Well, if it isn't Ben Miller," he said, motioning for me to sit. To what do I owe the pleasure? I hesitated for a moment, the words sticking in my throat. But then I told him everything. The condom wrapper, my suspicions, the gnawing feeling in my gut that wouldn't go away. Davy listened, his face serious, nodding every now and then, but never interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, stroking the graying stubble on his chin. "All right, Ben, I'll help you. Give me a week, and I'll see what I can dig up. But listen, before we go down this road, I need you to think about something. If this is what you think it is, you should be prepared." Prepared? Talk to a lawyer. Get a sense of what you're looking at financially and otherwise if this ends in divorce. The thought made my stomach churn, but I knew he was right. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'll do that." Davy stood and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "We'll get to the bottom of this, Ben. I promise. I nodded, thanked him, and left his office, the wrapper still burning a hole in my pocket. 2 hours later, I found myself sitting in Butch Reed's office, the man himself leaning back in his chair, his piercing eyes studying me like a hawk sizing up its prey. They didn't call him the best divorce lawyer in town for nothing. The man was a shark, plain and simple. If anyone could give me the hard truth, it was him. After laying out my situation, I waited as Butch flipped through a legal pad, jotting down notes. Finally, he looked up and said, "Ben, if this goes where you think it's going, you're looking at losing half. Assets, savings, the house, everything. California is a community property state. It's a clean 50-50 split, no matter what. 50%. Half of everything I'd worked for. Everything Kathy and I had built together. It felt like a punch to the gut. But as much as it stung, I knew one thing for certain. I could lose half my life, my money, my house, but I couldn't stay married to a cheater." Butch seemed to read my thoughts because he leaned forward, his voice lowering. "If you're serious about this, Ben, here's my advice. Keep your head down and act normal. Don't give her any reason to suspect you're onto her. If she smells something's up, she'll lawyer up too, and that'll make things a lot messier." I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. "I'll do my best." By the time I left his office, I was mentally drained but determined. I needed to play it cool, no matter how much it tore me up inside. When I got home, Kathy was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up and smiled as I walked in, her face the picture of normalcy. It made my chest tighten, but I forced myself to smile back. "I've got a business trip tomorrow," I said casually, leaning against the counter. "I'll be out for the entire week." That night, Kathy slid into bed beside me, her hand brushing against my arm. I could feel her warmth as she moved closer, her intentions clear. "Come on," she murmured softly, her voice carrying that familiar tone. But I couldn't. "I'm tired," I said, my voice low and flat. She paused for a moment, then sighed, rolling over to face the other side of the bed. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts churning. Was I making a mistake? What if the condom wrapper wasn't hers? What if it was Jack's? He'd stayed in our room for a couple of nights before he left for college while his was being painted. Could it have fallen out of his pocket? Or maybe I was just grasping at straws, trying to convince myself that this wasn't what it looked like. But then again, what if it was exactly what I feared? What if Kathy was cheating on me? The questions gnawed at me, tearing holes in my resolve. But in the end, I knew I couldn't back down now. I needed to see this through, no matter where it led. The next morning, I got up early, packed a small bag, and booked a cab. Kathy barely stirred as I grabbed my things and left the house, her soft breathing filling the silence as I closed the door behind me. The drive to the outskirts of town was uneventful, the city slowly giving way to open roads and scattered buildings. The motel was as unremarkable as I'd expected. Cheap, clean enough, and anonymous. Perfect for what I needed. I checked in, dropped my bag on the bed, and sat down, staring at the peeling wallpaper as the hours crawled by. It was almost evening when my phone buzzed. It was Davy. "Ben," he said, his voice calm but with an edge of urgency. "Kathy just left the house. She's checked into a motel." My heart skipped a beat. "Which one?" He paused for a moment, then said, "The same motel where you're staying." I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart pounding in my chest as the silence in the room pressed down on me like a weight. The thought of Kathy being here, in this motel, burned in my mind. When Davy called again, his voice was calm but insistent. "She's in the room next to yours, Ben," he said quietly. "Listen to me. Don't confront her. This isn't the time or place. Just leave the room, go somewhere else, cool off. You don't want to make a scene." But I couldn't. "No, Davy," I said, my voice strained. "I need to know. I need to hear it for myself." Davy sighed heavily, his frustration clear. "Fine, but don't do anything stupid. Promise me, Ben." I muttered an agreement and hung up, the phone trembling in my hand. The minutes stretched on. each second feeling like an eternity, until suddenly I heard voices, muffled through the thin walls. At first, I couldn't make out the words, just the sound of Kathy's voice and a man's deep, unfamiliar tone. Then it became clearer. They were having sex. Kathy was very vocal in bed, and then what I heard made my stomach twist. "I don't know why you're still with him," the man said, his voice dripping with contempt. "The guy's old, washed up. He can't satisfy you, can he?" Kathy's voice came next, breathless and filled with something I couldn't recognize anymore. "No, he can't," she said, her words cutting through me like a blade. "You're the best I've had in a while. He's just so old now." The man laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "Then why are you still with him?" Her reply came quickly, without hesitation. "I need him to keep the bills running. Now shut up and keep doing what you're good at." I sat frozen on the edge of the bed, every muscle in my body tense, every breath labored. The voices from the next room continued, their laughter like acid eating away at me. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, fists clenched, ready to tear through the door and end this nightmare. But before I could take a step, the door to my room opened, and Davy walked in, his expression grim. He grabbed my arm firmly, holding me in place. "Don't," he said sharply, his voice low but commanding. "Let me go," I hissed, trying to pull free, but Davy's grip tightened. "Listen to me, Ben," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "They've left the window open. I've got my camera rolling. I'm filming everything. You'll have all the evidence you need. If you storm in there now, you're the one who's going to end up in jail, and that'll screw you over in the divorce." I glared at him, my breathing heavy, my vision blurred by rage. "I don't care about the divorce," I growled. "I want to make them pay." Davy stepped closer, his grip unyielding. "And you will," he said firmly, "but not like this. Think, Ben. If you lose it now, you lose everything." For a moment, I struggled against him, the anger boiling inside me threatening to spill over. But Davy was stronger, and his words were like a cold slap to the face. Slowly, the fight drained out of me. Replaced by a wave of overwhelming grief, I slumped back onto the bed, my head in my hands. I felt broken, humiliated, powerless. The woman I had loved and trusted for over 2 decades was in the next room, tearing apart everything we'd built together. After a long silence, I stood up, my jaw set, my fists still trembling. "I'll have my revenge," I said, my voice low and steady, though every word burned like fire. "She might take away my assets, but I'll wreck her like she wrecked my marriage and my trust." The next few days were agony. I kept my distance from Kathy, playing the part of the distant sick husband. It was strange, lying in the guest room, separated from her by walls that felt thicker than ever. She'd come to check on me a few times, offering me tea, asking if I needed anything. Her voice so full of false sweetness that I could hardly bear it. Each time she came in, I had to force myself to act like I didn't already know what was happening behind my back. I had to fight the urge to lash out, to tear the mask off her face and expose everything. But I knew better. I had to be patient. This was about more than just catching her in the act. It was about taking control, taking everything from her that she had taken from me. I spent my days locked away, pacing the room, thinking about what came next. Davy was watching her, tracking her every move. Each night, he'd send me updates, texts, photos, video footage. They were together every single day now. Sometimes it was in Roger's apartment. Sometimes it was in the back of his car. Always, it was the same. Kathy, my wife, was having sex with a man who wasn't me. The disgust I felt was so sharp it made my stomach churn. But underneath that was something else. Something colder, more calculating. She had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The anniversary party was only a few days away, and I had everything planned down to the last detail. Kathy was still clueless, still in her little bubble, thinking that we were just going through a rough patch. She had no idea that her world was about to be shattered. It was time. The day arrived, and the house was filled with people. Kathy looked radiant as always, her smile bright and practiced. She greeted our guests, laughing and joking, pretending everything was fine. She didn't know that everything was about to fall apart around her. Roger was there too. He was pretending to be involved in conversation, his eyes glancing nervously toward Kathy. I could see it, the guilt, the hesitation in his every move. But he wasn't the target. She was. Kathy was the one who had destroyed everything, and it was time to make her pay. The moment came when I was standing by the big screen we had set up for the party. The lights dimmed, and I grabbed the mic, my heart pounding in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. I looked around the room at the people who still thought we were the perfect couple, still admired us, envied us. "I'm grateful that everyone is here tonight," I said, my voice cutting through the chatter. "Everyone here matters a lot to me and to Kathy." I paused, feeling the weight of their eyes on me. Kathy turned toward me, her smile a little too wide, a little too forced. "I've been married to Kathy for the last 24 years and 6 months, I continued. I could see her shift at that, confusion flashing in her eyes. "But let me explain. That's 24 years and 6 months of betrayal. That's how long it's been since our marriage died." Kathy's eyes widened, her face drained of color as she opened her mouth, trying to say something, but I raised a hand, silencing her. The guests around us were starting to whisper, sensing the tension in the air. "You all might think you know her," I said, now addressing the room. "But what you don't know is what she's been doing behind my back." At that moment, Davy stepped forward, holding a large, carefully wrapped gift. He walked up to Kathy, handing her the box with a smile. She took it, still not realizing what was about to happen. She unwrapped it slowly, with her family gathered around her. The moment the wrapping came off, she froze. The image on the canvas was clear. Kathy on top of Roger, naked, in the midst of their affair. The room went silent. The shock was palpable. Kathy gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she stared at the picture. Her father, standing behind her, looked furious. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice rising. "What kind of sick joke is this?" I stood there, unflinching. "It's not a joke," I said. "It's the truth." I motioned for Davy to cue the video. The giant screen flickered to life, showing footage of Kathy and Roger together. The video was clear. Kathy in Roger's bed, laughing, kissing him. The words she spoke on the video echoed through the room. "I'm keeping him just to keep the bills running." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Kathy's face turned white as she watched herself on the screen, her mouth moving silently as the words rang out in the room. There was no denying it now. Everyone in the room knew the truth, but I wasn't finished yet. A man in a black suit, whom I had arranged earlier, stepped forward. He moved with calm purpose, not even glancing at Kathy as he approached her. He handed her an envelope. "Mrs. Miller, you have been served." Kathy's eyes darted between me and the man, her face a mixture of confusion and anger. She reached for the envelope, but she didn't open it. Her fingers trembled, but she didn't speak. The man then turned and walked past her to Roger, handing him his envelope. "Mr. Smith, you have been served." Roger's eyes widened. He looked at me, then back at Kathy, his guilt and fear now written on his face. But he had no chance to speak before the man in the black suit moved on to the next person. The CEO of Kathy's company was standing near the front, and as the man in the suit handed him his envelope, the CEO's face immediately paled. "What is this?" he asked. His voice shook as if the sight of a lawsuit was too much for him. I didn't wait for him to say anything else. I looked directly at him and replied coldly, "That is a lawsuit for not enforcing the company's morality code. Your employees have been out on lunch breaks having immoral sex. This is the price they'll pay for your failure to enforce basic ethics." The room was silent, the atmosphere thick with tension. The CEO, now looking completely out of his depth, took the envelope without another word, turning quickly to leave the room. "Mr. Thompson," I said, my voice ringing out as the man began to leave. "I suggest you prepare for the damage the public scandal will follow you, and there's nothing you can do about it now. Next, I turn to Roger. Mr. Smith, you're being sued for alienation of affection and the destruction of my marriage.